All right, let's take some questions from our audience. Hey, Jason, big fan. What's your opinion on the Ray-Ban Facebook collaboration? Okay, I don't trust Facebook. You shouldn't trust Facebook. And based on the Facebook leaks and the Facebook papers, I think we're all going to come to the conclusion that they are not taking their role in society and the footprint and the impact they have seriously. To use any of their hardware products that have a microphone or a camera, you would have to be absolutely out of your mind to put anything Facebook related on your mobile phone, on your glasses. That portal they had, where they had the Muppets, I think, doing commercials for it, is absolutely crazy. Do not put any Facebook devices in your home. In fact, I'm thinking of, I took Facebook off my phone a while ago. I use Instagram because I kind of like it and I got a lot of friends on it. But yeah, it's kind of hard to give up, isn't it? It's hard to extract yourself. The thing I did to really extract myself is I used to use Facebook Connect to log into everything because it was so convenient. I stopped that. I disconnected Facebook Connect. I went into my settings, turned off all authentications. I never, ever, ever log in with Facebook Connect. I wouldn't do that. And I would never, ever buy those glasses. And I would never buy their portal or whatever their, interactive tool is. I think people are going to start voting with their time, and just getting off of social media in general is a good idea, and spend more time with your friends and family. All right. Next question. Hey, Jason, what are your favorite SaaS products and why? Well, obviously, we live in Slack and Notion all day long. We're using Restream more and more to run the podcast, and I absolutely love that as well. So I think Notion's become quite a game changer. We like Zapier and If This Then That as well, because it helps us build glue between things. So those are some of my favorites. Notion, I think, has really had a great impact on the company. And Squarespace, I love too, for beautifully designed websites. All right, next up, a question. What are my thoughts on the Tesla Plaid? My wife and I were getting too many speeding tickets with these Teslas. And so instead of Tesla Plaid and going 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds, I have been putting it on chill and been putting a speed limiter on the all the cars we own from Tesla, because I think getting speeding tickets is a bummer, and getting points on your license is a bummer. So I don't want to go any faster. I've had these Teslas forever, and my Lord, going 0 to 60 in 4 seconds or less is an absolutely crazy experience. And going in 1.9 seconds or under 2 seconds, like literally the stuff that goes flying into the back seat is crazy. So it is an awesome technological advancement. I'm tempted to buy the new Model S or X and trade in. We have an X, and I was thinking about trading it in. But I think I'm just going to go Cybertruck. So that's my plan. I really want the Cybertruck. I think that looks amazing and dope. The other thing I like is really the increasing the range. So for me at this point in my life, 50 years old, I'm taking the I'm taking the scenic route, and I like the 400-mile battery. To me, 400-mile battery and the self-driving, those kind of features to me are the attractive ones in a Tesla. I cannot buy a car without autopilot anymore. It's just, when I drive a car without autopilot, it is so frustrating for me to not be perfectly in the lane, perfectly distanced from the person in front of me, and be able to, use navigation or something. Now, I'm not texting while I'm driving, but when you have self-driving on, it's such a smoother ride when you're going to Tahoe, or sometimes I like to take the drive down to LA as opposed to flying, because it's 5 or 6 hours to drive. It's 3 to 4 hours to fly. I kind of like the long drive. I like listening to an audiobook and clearing my mind. So I just want to have a 400-mile range. Would be really delightful. I've been getting that 320 pretty consistently on my Model Y, and that's nice for going to Tahoe, but to LA, I got to stop. And I love the idea of not stopping and just boom, putting it in autopilot and just zipping down the 5 from LA to San Francisco, or going out to Tahoe. Really, really great stuff. Okay, here's a question from Samuel B. How long-term is too long-term for a company? It's a very generic question. I like to, with the early stage startups, let's say they're in the first year or two, I like when they build a 1-year plan and a 2-year plan and a 12-week plan and have all of those kind of syncing with each other because those people who make plans have a greater chance of success. I think winging it and not having a plan, really not a good idea. You really want to think about the amount of runway you have, how much money you'll need to hit those milestones. I do also find that some of the great founders do think in decades. And so thinking about, hey, when Uber gets to 100 million people, what would, the second decade look like? Okay, now we're going to have the Uber Eats and the delivery business. We'll have the trucking business. We'll have self-driving. We'll have VTOLs. A lot of what Travis was doing with Uber in the first decade when he was there, a lot of those ideas I'm now seeing in decade 2 of Uber, things we talked about in years 1 and 2, he was dead on. He was talking about, Uber Freight. He was talking about self-driving. He was talking about VTOLs. He was talking about bikes and micromobility and taking public transit and, getting you from point A to point B, helicopters. All of these things were things that Travis was dabbling in and he saw in the second decade. A lot of the things Elon talked about with Tesla in the first decade, are now coming true in the second decade. So I think thinking in decades as well is an interesting one. I thought about my first decade of angel investing, and then I thought about my second decade. I'm now in my second decade. And today I launched that second or the third syndicate we're doing, the SaaS syndicate. That's a big part of my thinking about, okay, in the first decade, it was about me and investing and my decisions on what to invest in. The second decade is about the 9,000 angel investors in my community and how we invest together. And so I've been thinking, hey, how can investments be occurring on the syndicate in the second decade that I didn't lead, that I didn't personally say, let's invest in this company, that maybe the community found and got some amount of equity for or cash with our scouting program, the open scouting program. And then maybe, the community voting with their dollars and saying, hey, these 100 syndicate members want to invest in this SaaS company that the open scouts found, right? So somebody in our audience of This Week in Startups found a company, submitted it. My team diligenced it, sent it out to the syndicate members in SaaS. They decided they wanted to invest. And then, whether I invest or not was secondary to the process, right? So I think a lot about the process of supporting founders and investing in them. And so, permission granted to think in decades, but then to take actions every day that maybe impact that quarter or the next, 8 quarters. So there's good to have the big vision moments when you go on a nice hike or you're at the beach, you're going skiing. Yeah, sure, think in decades for your life. But then you're going to have to act and look at the steps in front of you so you don't trip, right? Some people are so big vision, they never execute. Ugh, that's not good either. So it's a balance. Great question. I want to welcome Harry Hurst. You know him as the co-CEO and co-founder of the company Pipe. If you've been on Twitter over the past year, you've probably heard me and my besties, a number of which got their beaks wet, talking about all the excitement around Pipe and their fundraising and the product they're bringing to market. I thought I'd have Harry come on and explain it to y'all. Harry, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jason.
The people who are buying these contracts, the annualized contracts, are looking to make 10% on their money. And the person who's selling that in advance believes they could put that capital to work that would help grow their revenues more than 10%. Is that a way to look at it?
The simple math, if you take, for example, 95 cents on the dollar and you have a $100,000 trade, can I take $95,000 today, invest that into, say, sales and marketing for growth, and generate $5,000 in net new ARR as a result of investing that? If the answer is yes, which I hope it is for any growing company, you'll cash flow break even on the trade, if not cash flow positive on the trade, and you have the net new ARR. And, Bessemer Cloud Index, not sure where it is today, but anywhere between 10 to 20x on that additional 5,000 can be seen as your profit on the trade. So what we're trying to do at Pipe is turn people from having a borrower's mentality where they would traditionally go to, say, a lender and borrow money to a trader's mentality where they think of their recurring revenue streams as an asset.
All right. Thanks again, Harry, for coming on the pod and explaining that with Pipe.com, there is no debt, no loans, and most importantly to me as an angel investor, no dilution. If you sign up at Pipe.com/twist, they'll eliminate all your trading fees for 1 full year. What a generous offer. Pipe.com/twist so you can save up to tens of thousands of dollars. Happy piping, everybody.